Chosen one, you did not stumble upon this message. It found you. You weren't merely scrolling without purpose. You were summoned. This isn't another passing post. It's not a casual word of encouragement. It is a divine interruption, a sacred breach into your timeline, a precise fracture designed to reach you at the exact moment your spirit was ready to perceive it. This message has been orbiting your name, waiting for a gap in the noise, a sliver of silence, a breath deep enough to let truth enter. It has hovered like a quiet sentinel, invisible yet persistent, waiting for your heart to still, just long enough to sense its presence. You may assume this is coincidence, but heaven doesn't operate on chance. This is not random, it is divine arrangement. You are not here by luck, you are here by divine appointment. This word is not for the masses. It isn't a general encouragement, it's a spiritual alert, sacred, weighty, and deeply specific. Something is shifting behind doors you cannot open, in conversations you were never supposed to overhear. Decisions are forming in rooms where your presence was intentionally excluded, yet your name is being discussed, not as a supporter, but as a disruption. They are not preparing to raise you up, they are quietly coordinating to remove you, not because of a shortfall, but because your presence is intolerable to those thriving in pretense. You didn't earn your space by politics or privilege. You were carved into it through suffering, through unwavering obedience, through the pressure of long-forgotten sacrifices. What is taking shape now was never intended to be fair. It is a trap, carefully set. But what they underestimated is that heaven already knew, and heaven already moved. This is not a time to panic. This is a time to perceive. While earthly voices conspire in the shadows, divine authority is roaring in clarity. What they are weaving in secrecy is being unraveled in spirit. What they plot to steal, God has already secured. At this very moment, as you sit in sacred quiet, angelic forces are not idle. They are stationed, alert, unwavering. You are encircled by divine awareness, not because you're endangered, but because you are favored. You are not forgotten. You are not isolated. You are marked. And this message isn't a hopeful suggestion. It is a heavenly decree, executed with exactness and urgency. Every moment you felt unseen, every second you questioned your spiritual instincts, this is the validation. You were right to feel the disturbance. You were right to pick up on the spiritual dissonance. That tightness in your chest wasn't fear, it was activation. That subtle unease wasn't worry, it was holy perception, alerting you that something beneath the visible had begun to move. Before you read another word, pause, breathe. Let your spirit catch up with this revelation. Whisper sincerely, God, if this is for me, don't let me overlook it. Because what you're reading is not simply a collection of phrases. It is divine strategy, heaven's message breaking into a narrative you never gave permission to be written. While human voices decide in silence, the Spirit of God is shouting in revelation. You were never meant to fight for a place already appointed by heaven. You were meant to see clearly, stand firmly, and remain unmoved. That moment has now arrived. What comes next won't be cozy, it will be catalytic. What was designed to erase you is about to introduce you. What they said in hushed tones, heaven is about to declare aloud. What they tried to bury, God is about to reveal. You are not being pushed away, you are being strategically positioned, and every room that dismissed you is about to witness your emergence. Stay still, stay aware, stay closely aligned with heaven, because the atmosphere has shifted, and so must you. C.S. Lewis, in his Meditation on Divine Destiny, wrote, There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. The weight of glory. This truth confirms your spiritual significance. Your calm presence, despite their effort to displace you, signals that you are no mere mortal. You are divinely designated for unveiling. Lewis's words echo your journey, a path rooted in spiritual purpose. Your obedience is making way for a divine declaration that supersedes all earthly arrangements. They misjudge your silence. They assumed ignorance, but heaven recognizes it as obedience. You stayed silent because your spirit was instructed to hold its peace. You held your posture because the one who sees everything told you to wait. And now that stillness is being honored. Right now, while others maneuver to displace you, heaven is rearranging the atmosphere in your favor. This is not a threat meant to frighten. It is a decree grounded in divine authority. You are not on the brink of being diminished. You are standing on the threshold of divine transformation. They were convinced your silence would result in your disappearance. But God never called you to be hidden. He called you to be holy. And holiness does not demand attention. It endures. It is recognized because it remains consistent. There was a table where your name came up, not in applause, but in exclusion, not in reverence, but in removal. They marked your name, not to celebrate it, but to cast it aside. But what they failed to realize is this: heaven never needed their consensus. Heaven already sealed your destiny. What they scribbled with ink, God inscribed in light, and no human force can nullify what God has already affirmed. You were not submitted for their approval. You were sealed under divine agreement, and that seal cannot be overturned. The reason for this message isn't only to expose what's happening in the shadows. It is to prepare your spirit for the glory about to be revealed. In the days ahead, something unforeseen will shatter the silence. A voice, not meant to speak, will begin to stir. Someone who stood in agreement with the conversation will feel unsettled, not from guilt, but because heaven is agitating their spirit. They were not sent to defend you, but now they cannot sit comfortably with what was said, what was arranged, what was intended against you. And when this moment occurs, you must listen, not with anxiety, but with divine perception. It will be your confirmation. The confirmation that your instincts were true, that what you sensed but couldn't explain was never a fabrication. Do not react. Do not chase. Do not attempt to clear the narrative. There is no need to prove what God is about to manifest. Your restraint is your offering. Your silence is your warfare. And it has activated heaven's justice. For every whisper made behind your back, there is now a proclamation of honor being declared in the Spirit. For every attempt to vote you out, there is a divine elevation underway. For each plan to block your next step, God is unlocking new levels of purpose. Understand this fully. You are not being punished. You are being shifted. This isn't rejection. It's a holy reroute. What they attempted to seize was never given to them. They were merely placeholders. But now, that time has expired. The change begins. You will not return to the previous table. You won't be seated in familiar places. You will no longer rely on their validation. God is constructing a space that doesn't need their inclusion, only His authorization, and that has already been granted. Let your spirit become still. Let your thoughts find breath. The threat was real, but so is the triumph. And that triumph has your name on it, not because you've been perfect, but because you've been faithful. You stayed when others withdrew. You gave when it cost you everything. You endured when it was unbearable, and because of that, heaven is not only sheltering you, it is lifting you. Yes, your time in hiding is finished. The light is not coming to expose your weakness, it is coming to reveal your calling. A divine shift is imminent. It will be so exact, so intentional, that even those who schemed against you will be left speechless, not because they were confronted, but because they were convicted. In the next 7 days, something unexpected will arrive. It won't be loud, it won't wear banners, it will be subtle. A word, a message, a passing statement, a call that seems incidental, but isn't. This is how heaven moves, deliberate, silent, sure. You will recognize it by the calm it brings, by the weight it carries, by the way your soul responds before your logic can catch up. That moment won't just inform you, it will confirm everything whispered to your soul in stillness. You'll remember this moment. When it happens, you will pause. You will feel your breath slow, your chest expand, and you will know this is the sign. This is the proof that you were never alone, that your spiritual instincts were not delusions, that the unseen battle wasn't imagined. And when it comes, resist the urge to speak too soon. Don't rush to explain, don't hurry to validate yourself. Just listen, absorb it, and give thanks in your heart, because the spiritual war will already be won, and you'll be standing not in a storm, but in the stillness of divine victory. There are those who anticipate your absence, who mistook your silence for surrender. But in truth, your silence was consecrated. It was the chamber in which the promise was safeguarded, and now the waiting is over. Now birth arrives, not of something fragile or fleeting, but of something profound and enduring. What you are about to enter is not reimbursement, it is revelation. It is not vengeance, it is vision. And it is not fleeting, it is foundational. The door they sought to shut has become the very structure through which God will now move. What they intended to block off, heaven has marked as a gateway, and no mechanism formed by human strategy can withstand the key crafted through obedience. So be still, let the gravity of this promise stabilize your soul. Do not exert yourself trying to repair what was never your assignment to mend. Do not strive to rephrase what heaven has already revised. The delay was never denial. The resistance was not punishment. It was process. You are now standing on the opposite side of it, on consecrated ground. You need not struggle for what has already been granted. You need only to remain rooted and unwavering. The shift has already begun, and as you keep reading, you are not merely absorbing information, you are stepping into divine activation. What they orchestrated in secret is now collapsing under the pressure of heavenly justice. The very scheme they nurtured in hidden places is being undone, not by your hands, but by the hand of the Almighty. Their words are beginning to betray them. Their alliance is unraveling. One by one, their confidence is giving way to hesitation. Someone among them has already begun to reconsider, not from remorse, but because heaven has disturbed the waters of their spirit. They cannot rest as they once did. They cannot dismiss what their conscience is now awakening to. This isn't your doing. It's divine interference. God is using their own awareness to fracture the framework of their false confidence. You were never in true danger, not from them, not from what they arranged, not from what they decided. God does not wait for man's permission to move. He does not ask the doubtful before he promotes the faithful. And you, beloved, have believed. You have trusted without needing full clarity. You have endured without complete understanding. You remained silent when words could have justified you. But heaven has not missed a moment of your restraint, and now the quiet you held is being answered with restoration that cannot be undone. Everything they tried to cover you with will now become the ground from which you ascend. Everything they assumed would silence your name will now amplify the divine work about to unfold in your life. They spoke against you in quiet corners, but God is about to honor you in open spaces, not to humiliate them, but to establish you. You don't need retribution. You weren't made for petty victories. You were designed for sacred ones. You don't need to raise your voice. You only need to stay faithful. The conflict was never yours. It was always the Lord's. And He fights with light, not with noise. C.S. Lewis, in his Meditation on Divine Justice, wrote, "Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive." God in the dock. This speaks to the deceptive nature of their rejection. Their effort to displace you, wrapped in false righteousness, was a severe oppression that heaven is now overturning. Lewis's words, in harmony with your journey of spiritual discernment, affirm that divine justice is already unmasking their intent and solidifying your sacred place. Now lean in, for this truth must be inscribed upon your spirit. You are not going back to what you left. You are not returning to be reshaped by the environment that once excluded you. No, God is building something completely new, a space constructed not through compromise but covenant, a placement they cannot interfere with because it was never theirs to distribute. He is not merely securing your purpose, He is reshaping the very landscape where your calling will grow. You will soon observe their strategies stall. Their discussions will become indistinct. What once felt solid in their plotting will dissolve into doubt, and you, the one they identified for removal, will become the undeniable evidence they cannot ignore. Not because of accolades or validation by man, but because of the undeniable presence of God resting on your life. You won't have to plead your value. You won't have to make a case for your place. God Himself will speak for you. And when He speaks, no voice can reverse His command. Do not confuse the hardships of the previous seasons with divine absence. Every quiet sob, every prolonged night, every moment you questioned your significance, none of it was wasted. Heaven tracked not just your words, but your wounds. What you endured wasn't chaos, it was crafting. You have walked through fire, not to be destroyed, but to be developed. The burden you carried wasn't punishment, it was preparation for the weight of glory that now draws near. There are dimensions of calling that are inaccessible through ease. There are heights of purpose untouched by the untested, and you, chosen one, have been tested, not for man's applause, but for heaven's release of authority. That's why doors shut. That's why certain communities couldn't contain you. That's why their arrangements couldn't include you, because what God placed inside you was never meant to dwell in ordinary spaces. Sacred things must be removed from the common. You had to be withdrawn from the familiar so you could be positioned for the eternal. You were never delayed. You were never discarded. You were being prepared in obscurity, so that what's coming next can stand on a foundation of substance, not spectacle. And now, because you remained when retreat was easier, because you prayed when nobody saw, because you obeyed when no accolades followed, you are stepping into a season where the reward will not only touch your life, but ripple into generation. Yes, the inheritance you carry is not one of mere endurance. It is one of sacred triumph. That is why the struggle was severe. That is why the betrayal cut so deep. That is why the waiting felt unending. Because you carry something the enemy couldn't confiscate, so he tried to enclose you in despair. But even in the moments when you nearly gave in, heaven refused to let go. God's hand supported you when your strength gave way. His presence wrapped you when isolation pressed in. His whisper held you when every other sound disappeared. And now, that same voice isn't whispering, it is proclaiming. He is proclaiming your restoration. He is proclaiming your repositioning. He is proclaiming your re-entry, not into the system they devised, but into the space He ordained. You will no longer move in doubt. You will no longer question your belonging. The veil is lifting. The sorrow is easing. The fear is dissolving. In its place, peace will anoint you like oil upon your shoulders. You will enter spaces with certainty, not confusion. You will speak from depth, not from performance. You will move with dignity, not defense, because now you know you were chosen. No earthly decision can annul what heaven has already affirmed. So now lift your gaze, not outward, but inward. For what has shifted is not only the climate around you, but the clarity within you. You are no longer walking as one afraid to be displaced. You are walking as one whom heaven has revealed. This is not about retrieving what was taken. This is about accessing what was always yours, hidden until the appointed time. You haven't missed anything. You haven't lagged behind. You are exactly on time. The scroll of your destiny has been unfurled. Heaven has already responded on your behalf. The intentions of your opposition are dissolving even as you read. The ones who once assembled in secrecy are becoming silent, not from confrontation, but from holy disruption. And now, in the very halls where your name was diminished, God will establish honor. In the very spaces where your departure was discussed, they will witness your emergence. But do not return with arrogance. Do not re-enter with bitterness. Enter with grace. For this is not your retaliation, it is God's righteousness. And when He restores, He doesn't bring you back to the same chair. He prepares a new dwelling, a new environment, and a new weight of influence that only you can carry. Don't be surprised when the surroundings shift. Even your mere presence will start to carry spiritual weight, not because of title, but because of truth. People will sense the calm around you that cannot be replicated. Your words will bring a resonance that silences deception. Your example will say more than the arguments they once used to distort your name. You won't have to announce how you arrived here. You won't have to defend your journey. Your serenity will narrate the testimony. Your fruit will speak what your lips never needed to. The scent of divine favor will go ahead of you. And those who once questioned your legitimacy may not comprehend it, but they will witness it. Mere Christianity. This metaphor echoes the essence of your refining journey. The quiet endurance, the hidden tears, the betrayals you bore in silence. These were not signs of weakness, but the sacred cracking of your shell. Each fracture, each unspoken sorrow was preparing you to rise, not in mere strength, but in divine authority. Lewis's words, aligning with your lifelong pursuit of spiritual transformation and meaning, confirm what your spirit already knew. Your concealment was not abandonment, it was preparation. Heaven was not withholding you, it was forging you, in fire, in quiet, and in grace, for a rising that cannot be imitated. What is unfolding next will not be built through striving, it will emerge from stillness. And that same stillness that carried you through this long hidden battle will now serve as the ground upon which you stand in victory. Yes, victory, but not one rooted in noise or recognition. This is not just restoration, it is elevation. not a return to what was lost, but an ascent to what could only be reached through this process. This is the crown after the crushing. This is the unveiling after the silence. This is the glory born from grief, and it is holy. So now, walk forward, not with fear, but with quiet confidence. You are being summoned into spaces that require your wholeness. Do not bring yesterday's worries into tomorrow's terrain. Do not carry yesterday's pain into the wine of a new season. Let what was stay buried under the grace that already covered it. You owe no apology for surviving. You owe no explanation for being chosen. This is not the hour for permission. This is the moment for vision. And the eyes to see have already been given to you. What lies ahead is not simply recovery, it is revelation. A revealing not only of what is around you, but of who you have become. And now, chosen one, hear this final word and write it deep within. You are no longer in a season of transition. You are standing in the center of activation. The season of having to prove yourself is over. The time of trying to justify your space is finished. You are not being barely accepted. You are being firmly established. This transformation will not be announced by the ones who once doubted you. It will be undeniable because of the presence that now walks with you. Where once you entered quietly, you will now step with authority. Where once you went unnoticed, now even your silence will be felt. This is your sacred commissioning, not from people, not through performance, but from the very breath of God. You have passed the test of silence, the test of surrender, the test of waiting, the test of waiting on when nothing made sense, the test of walking in darkness with nothing but trust. And because of that, heaven has responded, not with a whisper, but with a declaration. Move forward, proceed in power, take every step with intentional peace. Speak only when the Spirit stirs your voice. Stay silent when the flesh longs to defend. For you are no longer carrying the wound, you are carrying the mantle. And that mantle is not just for you, it is for the lives tied to your obedience, the generations waiting on your yes. So do not flinch when old doors shut without warning. Do not mourn when relationships fade without closure. Nothing that is being removed is being lost. It is being cleared for divine expansion. You are not being forsaken. You are being made room for. The weight you used to bear is being lifted. Not because it suddenly vanished, but because God exchanged your burden for His strength. The tears you once cried in private will soon be answered with unspeakable joy. The confusion that once clouded your thinking will be overtaken by clarity you did not expect. And as you rise into this new day, this sacred unfolding, remember, you are not going back, you are ascending. You are not repeating history, you are breaking it. You are not reclaiming a place, you are fulfilling a prophecy. This is not the aftermath of rejection, this is the evidence of redemption. You are not the byproduct of their decisions, you are the result of heaven's decree. And every word, every meeting, every sentence written to erase you has already been reversed in the courts of the eternal. The final ruling has already been made, the outcome has been declared. The answer is this: you remain, you rise, you reign. So go now, not with fear, but with favor, not in arrogance, but in peace. You don't need to announce what has shifted, let heaven reveal it. You don't need to argue your anointing, let your fruit be the answer. And you do not need to quiet your voice to be accepted by those who were never assigned to your sound. You are not merely remembered, you are marked. You are not just returned, you are rewarded. You are not simply defended, you are commissioned. God has spoken. His will has been made clear, the scroll has been sealed, the atmosphere has changed, and all of heaven rejoices, not because the battle was simple, but because you didn't bow when you were broken. Now inhale. The warfare is finished. The room they tried to bar you from has been undone, and in its place God has established a new dwelling, one where your name is written in glory above the door. This is not a step back. This is your sacred beginning, and it is holy. Go forward, beloved. The moment is here. The path is prepared. The presence is weighty, and the victory is eternal, forever sealed by the one who called you. Amen.